there everybody, welcome to the channel. Cindy Daychuk here with Queen Bee Creations, and today we're going to catch up on some thrifted decor items for the holidays. So this is the perfect time to be picking up some of the items because people are starting to clear out their holiday stash of things to make way for new items. So they're looking at, what's the decor that I have? Is it looking old and tired? Let me get rid of that. Let me go look for new. So apart from it being a great time to be selling new items, right, your updated items, it's a great time to be finding items at the thrift store. Christmas is just starting to hit, so you can find some cool things to upcycle. So I've got a couple, 1, 2, 3, 4 projects that I have to get started on. So the first one that we're gonna do is this. I thrifted 2 of these little guys. I don't even understand the ribbon, it's kind of sad. But here's the thing, this just isn't even stuck in the pot anymore, and this needs a good clean. So I am actually gonna run them under the sink, get all that dust off, set them off to the side to dry. So I'm gonna do that for both of them. This one I'm gonna have to loosen first, but we'll make it work. In the meantime, what I'm gonna be doing, I wanna zhuzh the pots up a little bit, but to do that, I want to take the Tapers mold, which is new from IOD. This is the Angels, okay? And what I want to do is I'm just gonna use 2 of them, but I'm only using them far enough that they fit on my pot. So for this one, I'm only gonna go to here. So don't think that just because they're great big long honking things, you have to use the whole honking thing. So I love these Angels, and they're just gonna fit wonderfully. So I only need 2 of them. How long do you need to be? You could be to here. So I'm just putting a little bit of cornstarch in the mold. And for this, because it's going on to a really firm backing, I can use my air dried clay for this. I don't have to worry about casting in resin, and you know, this is gonna be a curved surface. It's just gonna make my life easier if I use the clay. I had this clay sitting aside because it was starting to get hard. And so I put a wet paper towel in, which is now sort of dryish. So let me just spritz it again. Oh, that's the end of my water. Okay. And I've had it softening, so it's much more pliable now. This one at the bottom could be a little softer, so we'll put that damp rag down in it. But don't think that just because your clay goes hard that you're out of luck. Just start adding a moist towel in there, little paper towel works great, and it'll start absorbing the water and come back to life. So what I am gonna do is I'm gonna get these pushed in. Okay, it's taking a little bit more muscle to do since they're not fully softened, but it doesn't make sense for this to go and start opening new packs of clay. So I'm going to get them pushed in here, and then I'm going to affix them onto the side of my pot. And I have some wood glue over here. I'm just gonna pop this out of my mold. I mean, really, look how beautiful that is. And it looks perfectly normal, her being that short. I'm just looking for where I want the front to be. I'm gonna stick some wood glue onto the back of her. If I can get it coming out. There we go. And I, by the way, thrifted these. They were $20 at HomeSense apparently. and I thrifted them for $3.80 each, so just under $4 each. Let's just call it four. So $4 each, which I think is an awesome deal for this. I definitely, with that white ribbon on there, wouldn't have, I mean, maybe they looked better then, right? There was more to it. Maybe whoever had these before they donated it pulled off a lot of the decorations they didn't want. Here's hoping. But I'm just gonna stick this on. Awesome. See, look how that's gonna look. All right, so I just wanna stick her on there, make sure she's on straight, and I'm just gonna tuck her off to the side so that she doesn't rock and roll, that she stays nice and steady. Okay, and then I'm going to do my other angel and glue it on to the other base, set them off to the side overnight to dry before we start painting them up. Next up, I thrifted this little pedestal. Now, it is heavy, it is metallic, it has nuts and leaves and that kind of thing. So super cute for a candlestick or doing, you know, like a tree on top of it or something. So perfect for the holidays, but it definitely looks old and tired. So what I do have is a metallic silver paint. Now, that's assuming I can get into it. Now, Fusion has metallic silver, so you could use that. It's got a beautiful brushed steel. I just happen to have this big honking jar from the hardware store. This is a Rust-Oleum metallic accent product. And because I've got so much of it, I feel compelled to use it. But I love the Fusion paints, so I would not hesitate to recommend those. I need to grab some kind of a stir stick and just stir this up a little bit. There we go. Because it definitely needed a little bit of stirring. But I am simply going to get this, at this stage, get this painted out. So you can see that this is going to be a brighter silver at this stage. We're not done, but we are getting that silver base to update it. There's a couple of spots where there's a piece that's broken off over here, and there's some dings and chips. So repainting it just unifies all that, right? You're not going to notice any of that. And you can see that I'm just kind of more dabbing in and painting because I want to get this into all of those little nooks and crannies. But for this one, this is the first step. We want to get it all painted silver before we do anything else to it. Okay, now that's painted silver. We also have this that I thrifted. And I think this is super cute with this red and black, but I don't think it's super cute with these horns for sure. So what I am looking at doing is painting out the horns. And I'm going to do that with, because apparently from the hardware store I was buying metallic paint, I bought bronze. Now this is a really dark bronze, so we will use it, but then we are going to do more with it afterward. Let me just make sure my silver paint isn't going to come off on anything. And this is very thick already. It's starting to thicken up. But what I'm going to do is zhuzh this up a little by painting over it with that bronze. And let me just get a little bit on and you can see the color difference. And already it kind of moves into matching the base a little bit better, which means I likely am not going to have to paint out that base. I can leave it that brown. But see where that starts to take the horns already. And I bought this for $3. That was a deal. That silver, that base, the pedestal base, I got for four. Those, what else did I, what I showed you already. I'm losing track. Oh, the pots were 4 each. So those guys. And then we have one more hanging off to the side after I get this painted. So I'm going to start with the base of the bronze. We'll see how it looks after one coat and whether or not I feel like I have to do a second, but I don't necessarily feel that I have to have this looking absolutely solid. If I don't mind that kind of yellow color echoing up through it, I may be okay to carry on to the next step. But just doing that, you can see that already that kind of zhuzhes it up a bit. But I'm going to get the rest of the antlers all painted out and get that off drying before I show you our fourth project. Already amazing what paint can do. The last ones to do today, because again, I need them painted, I need them drying, are these two deer. So this is a decorative one. This is the candlestick holder that goes with it. Pretty cool. They look kind of old and tired. They're a little chipped. These were originally from HomeSense as well. I got them for $5 and $4. They were normally $15 and $18, I think. But what we're going to start with is we're going to do them all copper. So we're going into the metallics today. Just because Christmas really, looking for a clean brush, Christmas really lends itself to that. I have Pennies from Heaven by DIY. This is a very rough surface. So we're going to be treating this after. So if you're thinking that the copper looks really bright, we are going to tone it down. No worries. But it just means, you know, when you're painting, you're just going to want to use a brush that you're okay with wiggling back and forth into all of those nooks and crannies and crevices of the piece. And again, because we are going to be doing more treatments, if you don't get it 100% covered, you know, if you still got some of this sparkly, silvery gray sort of color popping through, that's okay. That'll work. But we're going to get both of these guys painted and off to the side. And then tomorrow we'll be able to come and start finishing their updates. I'll get those trees washed as well and get them off drying. Well, when I go home for dinner. Our angels have had overnight to dry, and now it's time to paint them. So I'm going to be taking Crinoline by DIY. This is a clay-based paint, which means it does not self-seal. We will be sealing it, but I want to do a little bit of aging with it as well. And usually for something like that, I like using an open paint as opposed to one like a Fusion that self-seals, just because then I can really have an impact on the overall finished color of the paint more than anything else. So I'm just unifying this by painting it out in the Crinoline, painting the angels in the same color. And then I do need this to dry before we can move on to sealing and aging or any of that. So that's why this morning, this is the first thing I'm doing so that as I'm doing other things, this paint can get drying. And just, you know, when you're doing sort of multiple projects, just think in terms of wait time. You know, if you've got something that you're going to have to wait for, like this drying, then you're going to want to do that first so that it can go do its thing while you move on and do your thing with something else. So let's get the paint on both of these, put them off to the side to dry, and then we'll pick up with some of our other projects sitting over here. For our little deer head, we've got the bronze painted on and dried. And what I want to do is take a little bit of gold gilding wax. Now you could use Golden Rule, you could use a Rub and Buff product. I just happen to have some gilding wax from Annie Sloan. And I'm just gonna take the teeniest, tiniest bit on my finger, and I'm just gonna add it here and there to some of the details. And I like the combination of that dark bronze with a little bit of that gold highlight. I just find that it kind of brightens up that bronze a little bit and kind of adds in a little bit of dimension. So if you look at, let me see, look at his right ear, look at his left ear, right? Left. It's just not quite as flat. We're not looking to make it all gold. We want to have both of those colors, but I just find like sometimes with the dark bronze, I don't want it to just look brown. And here we've got some detail in the wood details on it. So I'm just going to kind of drift that over it to, again, kind of pick up this edge as well. I want to unify that brown base with a little bit of that gold color. I'm going to rub that around the edging of that so that we tie the two together. And then I think the only thing that I have left to do is I'm going to look for a couple of, see if I've got some gold toned bells, and I'm going to hang a little bit of bells and greenery from around it so that it just kind of picks up the Christmas a little bit. I mean, you could hang ornaments from the antlers if you want to go all out, but I'm just going to hang a couple of little bells around his neck, and then this one's done. Okay, the next one we're working on is this. We've got our brighter silver on it. It's all kind of, well, not kind of dried. It's all dried. Just looking for, there we go. And what I'm going to do is I am going to take black wax. Now, to do this, I really want an icky brush. And this is an old chip brush. It's got dried paint and everything on it. Perfect, perfect. So I'm just going to dip it into my black wax, and I'm going to start jabbing it down into all those little crevices, because I want to be antiquing this a bit. I don't want it to be such a bright silver. I want it sitting down into some of those lows. This paint is sealed, so I didn't have to seal it, so you can see the difference. And then we're just going to take a rag and we're just going to wipe off some of it off the surface. So we're going to turn it from this to this. And it looks so much better. It brings out the details. It's not such a harsh, bright silver anymore, but it's a much better look than what it started out with, which wouldn't have had any appeal to people, but it really didn't take much for us to be able to zhuzh it up and ultimately then just kind of age it, turn it into a piece that's going to look good in anybody's holiday decor. So we're going from, I just want you a little darker down there, from this look to this, and you can see how the details pop. And then we just set it off to the side to allow the wax to be able to dry. Not a hard one. And now for our big deer. Our first step in this process is we're going to be taking turquoise wax, which is Shipwrecked by DIY, and we're going to start adding some of that. Now, I'm not going to do it, I mean, it's heavier here, lighter here. I'm going to do it a little bit patchy because I want it to have a little bit of that verdigris look to it, and that's going to be meaning it's kind of a little bit of an uneven finish more than anything. What it also means is that when I go with my rag, I'm going to be more patting than I am rubbing, because I want that wax to be sitting there. I just don't want it to be super heavy. So our first step is to get this on in some of the spots. And don't forget that we have to turn him upside down because he's very, you know, we want to get some of the back of the legs and stuff so he's not all super copper in some areas. And then it helps get the underside. So our first step is doing this, getting that wax on, right? And I'll do that to both before I move on to the next step. Next step, we are going to add dark wax. And we're going to do this with a dabbing and splotching kind of method. So what it will do is take it a little bit from this to this. And maybe you can't quite see the difference, but it kind of tones it down, ages it out just a little bit more. And I might add another step. I'm not sure yet. We'll see when I get this done. But I'm kind of doing this on those open spots in between. So where we've got a little bit of maybe a really bright copper showing, and it's just kind of dulling it down a little bit so that it's not so bright everywhere. And then I'll take my cloth and soften that all out. Last two steps for this guy. First of all, so this is how it looks now, and you could stop if you like that. I love layering metallics over metallics. So I have a fan brush so that I'm applying this very lightly, and I'm using Golden Rule by DIY for this because most of the rub and buffs and things are a little too harsh. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking that fan brush and I'm brushing over some of those details. So it's a very soft look, but it's just adding kind of this soft little bling. You're still seeing the copper, you're still seeing that verdigris look, but it's adding a little bit more kind of burnish, and especially because this was a rough texture to start. So we're bringing back a little bit of those details with this. And I just kind of want to go not necessarily all over, but in some of the major areas. And we're just adding just an extra layer of color here and there. So I do want to make sure that I go up underneath, you know, just because then I know that it's done. Other people may never turn it upside down, but okay. The last thing that I want to do, I swear, what I have here is I have a little bit of a paste mixed up with top coat. So I'm just using, I just need a little bit more of the top coat in there. I'm just using Fusion Tough Coat because I have it open and it was sitting here on my desk. And I've mixed it up with cinnamon, and just an inexpensive dollar store cinnamon, right? We're not going for taste here. But what I want to do is just start dabbing this on in some places so that it almost starts to mimic kind of a little bit of aging and a little bit of rust. Now, I will say this, a lot of people will maybe dab on their top coat or their wet wax, and then they'll just sprinkle the cinnamon on over top. I find that it'll just brush off anyway. And once you top coat it, it's if you choose to do that, then it's going to go this color anyway. And this way I can get a better, more aged look. So that now we're just adding a little bit of what, you know, might look like kind of a rust element. And I can do it a little bit more precisely than if I'm doing the sprinkle method. For our pots, I have, because this is unsealed paint that I used the DIY crinoline. I've put a coat of clear wax on it. What I want to do is kind of bring out those details, age it a little bit, but I like to be a little bit more controlled. We're gonna be using the Decrepit Dust from DIY for this. And I know that Debbie Beard just sprinkles it all over. I like to be a little more cautious. So I'm dipping my brush into clear wax, and then I'm dipping it into a little bit of the Decrepit Dust. And then I like to kind of go around. So you can see how far this goes already. I like to go around and dab a little bit here and there, and then I can go and start to work it in. So once my brush has been emptied a lot, and maybe I want some more clear wax, to kind of age it even more. And where it's really dark, I want to start pulling that out now. And I may grab a semi-clean cloth, find a clean spot, and get my finger in there to be able to start to even it out. I don't want my pot to look pristine, and I don't want my angel to look pristine. But to do this and to age this, I don't want it to be super heavy anywhere. So clear wax is your friend with this process. And then I want to start taking some of that out along the body of my pot too. Just so that we've got a little bit of that aged patina happening all over. But you notice I still haven't dipped. I haven't dipped my brush into that aging dust again yet. Just that one little dip. And then that was enough for me. The last thing that I want to do, because I am going to decorate the tree with a little bit of gold, is I'm taking a little bit of the Golden Roll by DIY, a fan brush, and I'm just going to brush it lightly over the top of that angel. So it's not going to show as gold. So be careful if you're using a Rub and Buff product instead, or gilding wax. They tend to be a little bit more gold than this does, but we get this aged kind of look versus the unaged. Now it's time to zhuzh the tree part of this up. So I'm going to face it to me so that I don't mess that up. But what I want to do is, this moss is pretty grungy now. So I want to add some new moss. And this is just from the dollar store. So I just like to pick off all of the excess dirt part on the back of these. There's a lot of thickness that's unnecessary and just gets in the way and, you know, sticks. So, I mean, as much as it makes a mess, any of this moss makes a mess, it just makes it easier to work with ultimately. So I'm just going to do a whack of glue, and particularly around the edging, to be able to get a lot of this moss just kind of, ouch, tucked in there. And I like it kind of mounded up and over a bit so that it looks very full. Already looks better. Now, you you could stop there if you just like the look of that, right? I'm doing this for Christmas, so I am looking to get it a little blingier. So I have these that I can't remember if these are dollar store or thrifted. It all becomes a blur, but they're just kind of nice little mixed containers. Some have stripes, so a little bit of different things. Before I attach them, I pop that off so that I just glue this on directly, and that way then I don't have those little things glued on and not the ball, and the ball wants to pop off. So I'm just looking to nest these in here, sort of alternating. Oh, I want a plain red one. Just kind of alternating them. And in particular, I'm looking for maybe where there's a little bit of a bald spot, and just tucking them in nice and tight. So I'm just going to go around, get a bunch of these balls attached, and then we'll come back for the next stage of this. Next step, I have two different kinds of ribbon. And what I'm going to do is just kind of fold these over, squish those little ends together, and I'm going to tuck these in for, again, a little bit more filler, but a slightly softer look. This one is, that ribbon is where I'm going to burn myself because it's an open weave mesh. This one, it's got the wire. I couldn't think of the word. The wire on either end. So I'm just going to fold it over so that I've got little tagged ends, and then just kind of fold this over like this and open it up a little. So then I can just kind of push those in place like this. And that gives me a little bit more color on the tree without, ouch, without a solid ball look, so that it doesn't get too ball heavy. So we end up with something like this and tucked in there. And I'm just going to do a couple of those here and there. So, you know, just adding a little bit extra there. And then I have a packet of these. It came in a packet of 3 that I thrifted. And that's ultimately going to be the top of my tree. And once I get all this glued in place, these ones are done. Okay, let's take a look at our finished projects. First up, dead easy, was fixing up this little candle stand. It's nice and solid, but it just needs a little bit of zhuzhing. So some paint and some black wax, and we're good to go. And these thrifted items get new life. You can resell them, you can use them in your home, but hopefully it gives you some ideas even for some of your old decor. But definitely if you're looking in the thrift stores for some potential Christmas items. This guy, it just seemed really uncoordinated. It looked a little tired. I don't mind the plaid, but the antlers in that kind of yellow finish didn't go with the back plaque. We had a little touches of gold onto it, little greenery and bells. I tried around the neck and it just looked silly, so I think it looks better there. We painted these out bronze, added a little bit of gold to those, and I think it looks great now for the holidays. We also got these little Pier 1 pieces that we did in the metallic copper. We added some turquoise wax for a bit of the verdigris. We dry brushed gold, and then we did some cinnamon on them. And it's just a lovely little kind of antiqued finish where it just looks a little bit more rusted out. This guy, I don't know if you notice, is missing like the little end of his antler. I don't care. I think he still looks fine. He's got a good side and a bad side, don't we all? So this little pairing in a little bit more of a rustic finish. It's got the metallics, but it's not super blingy or in your face. And then the last were these little potted trees, and we added on the top of the angel tapers. You don't have to use the whole thing. We did them out with you know, a little bit of our dark wax there, little light brushing of gold to be able to coordinate. And now we just have some really simple looking little trees that could go on either end of a buffet or table display. And they just look a little bit fresh and nice and new. And I think that those were thrifted balls, so not a big expense. Hopefully you see the potential in these, and definitely gives you kind of some new eyes to be just glue threads. New eyes looking at some of the things in the thrift stores. You know, some of them look really old and tired, but you know, a little bit of paint, some colored waxes, we're kind of good to go. Let me know what you think. Love to hear from you as always. Hope you enjoy seeing some of the thrifted flips, getting things ready for Christmas as much as I love doing them. It's just more fun for me than just taking a plain board and making a sign. So hope you guys enjoy them. Let me know. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. And until then, take care.